Hey, I'm Maria back with another video. It's oh my goodness, it's 3:08 p.m. It is April 18th. It is Saturday afternoon. And the day just went by so fast. I got up early this morning to put something in the sink, and then I went back to bed. And then I woke up and I realized it was like close to 12 o'clock in the afternoon. That's not my sleeping pattern, but things are really off right now in my life. And so there's just been a lot of like this mental roller coaster that affects my sleep. You know the story anyway, so I decided to jump on here and make this video. As I mentioned, it is Saturday, and it is extremely dreary Saturday. And the reason why it's dreary is because the weather's crap right now. And also seeing all these people walking around in masks and stuff, it just adds to the darkness. You know what I mean? It just adds to it. I like going outside, but really like not on days like this. I mean, rainy days have their place. There's sometimes where it fits the mood, and I'm really trying to lift my mood, so I really don't need to see it being gray outside when I'm just already like, feeling, so flattened. I can't even take it. Anywho, so I decided to make this video because I was thinking about our different realities and how what's normal to one person is completely so far off to another. And it's not that it's like right or wrong, it's the issue of what we perceive, as what's normal. You know, when I was younger, I knew this kid who grew up with his grandparents. I don't know how his grandparents ended up in custody with this kid, but for whatever reason, he was born by his grandparents. And that generational gap that was there between, if he would have had his regular parents who were probably like more understanding, more set to the modern age, he wouldn't have been so like backwards. But this is what he knew because his grandmother raised him. So like he would listen to shit like, what do you call it? Lawrence Welk and shit like that. You know what I mean? And it was very strange. And he even wore suspenders. Now, I'm kind of an odd bird, right? People think I'm different and weird, right? But even I looked at this kid like, dude, you are fucking weird. Weird. But you know what? There were times where I enjoyed talking to this kid because it was interesting to see his perception of the world, what was normal to him. And he almost seemed oblivious. In this kid's case, like he almost seemed oblivious to things that were going on around him. Like, when back then there was Pac-Man, right? Everybody was playing Pac-Man. They knew what it was. You heard it. But this kid, like, didn't even really recognize what Pac-Man was. Or the groups that were being played, at that time. Or the TV shows. He was not into that. Because his reality was, like, I would say 30s or 1940s because of his grandparents. And this was the world that they lived in because all his grandparents' friends were old. Everything around him was like this old world. And so he grew up like even though it was like 70 something, the 70s or early 80s or whatever. Yeah, it was early 80s. Even if it was the early 80s, it's like to him, this is the decade or the way it is. And so you could try to like back then it was like the big thing was like Jordache jeans or whatever. You could try to like cram these sort of ideas into a kid's mind as much as you want to. But see, not only does his generational gap upbringing present the problem of, well, not really a problem, that's just the way it is. But it's also an issue because since his grandparents were so old and like certain things from this generation they thought were like a no-no. Like, there were some men at certain ages or even women, who were raised in certain generations don't think that women should wear pants. My dad didn't think women should wear pants. Not really. You know what I mean? But you're asking a kid to be, to change his lifestyle for a majority of people. And the thing is that but in his family, this is how it is. It's normal to him. You see what I'm saying? He's not doing anything wrong. He's just a little backwards. And I think sometimes it's bad to be backwards if you are unable to function in the modern world. Like, for example, this kid, for example, who only experienced, a certain amount of technology, very limited at that time, any sort of understanding what's going on around him in the outside world or whatever, it does prevent him from having social relationships. It does. It does. It affects his ability to blend in with other people. Okay. But there are certain things that I can understand when a person's like very, very different, how they could, kind of be socially distanced from most people, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's still normal for them. And so there's odd birds that this particular kid could gravitate to sometime at some point in his life and find his place among where he belongs. And sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. You know what I mean? But this is his reality. This is what's normal. And he may have adapted more modern ideas and thinking. I don't know how he is an adult. I don't know, okay? Because I don't remember this kid's last name. But he, as an adult, may have changed a little bit since his grandparents are probably dead. Probably. And he's been able to experience the world around him. Maybe he's adapted to certain things. Not completely, because, this is a strong foundation. He's been this way for years and years and years and years and years and years. So it's like, you really think that he's going to, like, flip completely around? No, there's certain parts of his personality that are still going to continue to be there. Now, in my case, I am backwards in some ways, which I'm fully aware of. It's not like I'm like one of these people who's not aware of it. I'm completely aware of it. Now, I wasn't really aware of it when I was younger, but then people crammed it down my throat all the time, 100%, and telling me how I'm supposed to live my life and what I'm supposed to be, but this is what I am. And it's completely normal to me. Now, I understand, like, there's certain things that go on, or like women my age, there's a lot of women my age, like I said, they're having kids. They're taking care of the little kids, or they're raising teenagers, or their kids are married and they're having children. Most of the women my age their kids are older and their kids are even having children. Okay, so there's a lot of people right now that I went to school with who are grandparents right now. I'm aware of that. I think people think that because I'm different, they think, well, is she something off? Not everybody. I'm going to tell you right now, who I am is shaped and based off of my experiences. It's based off of my experiences. Now, when you're a bullied kid, or you're the scapegoated kid, or whatever, you're different. You don't know why you're constantly being picked on. But I will tell you, when I was younger, like when I remember first started school, the formulation of my childhood and how I was developing was very different from how I ended up. Because I remember like me being able to meet friends, and I would have these cute little friendships. And then there was like these power plays, that my siblings would get. And then there was I remember like meeting this friend, and then she was like, and then my sister was like, oh, well, I know her. She's my friend now. Or, I knew her first, or whatever, just stupid stuff, these little competition games. And then because I got tired of the bullshit, then I just started to become more within myself. You know what I mean? It's like, this is bullshit that's going on around me all the time, these competitions and everything. I'm tired of it. So I went inside myself. And that was the best place for me to be. Some people say, well, that's escapism. That's trying to, avoid your problems. No, I didn't try to avoid my problems. For many years, I tried to figure out what my problems were. I kept thinking it's because, I'm a black girl. I have different interests and hobbies and stuff. Is that what people have against me? Not really. But I got these ideas in my mind because I see where the criticism was coming from. Those criticism was coming from my upbringing, the people that I was around all the time. Okay, for these years, I really thought, for a long time, I thought something was wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. Okay. I am the result of what I experienced. Now, going back to this weird kid, making the comparison about this weird kid and how people like try to pick me apart and everything. We are who we are based on our experiences. Okay, there are some people who, because they were raised in a maybe like more common setting, where maybe their parents didn't love each other, or maybe they did love each other, but they grew up and there was no real tension and there was no scapegoating in the family. All families are imperfect. Nobody's perfect, okay? No one's like, saying that you had to be like this ideal TV impossible family, okay? Or come from one, okay? But when you're a scapegoated kid, they make sure that your environment is toxic everywhere you go. Just like what's going on right now was going on when I was a kid. Okay? And I realized that the issues that I had in school was because of the bullying. Because I remember wanting to be at school all the time. I want to be there. I was always trying to be there. I loved it. I loved it. I loved going to school. And then it got to the point where it's like, I don't want to be there anymore. And the same bullshit that's going on with my work issue. It's the same damn thing. Sometimes it's normal for some people, just like it's normal for some people to bully people. And it's so normal to them that they don't even think that they're bullying. They've convinced themselves that their behavior is right. That this is the way that you get people on track. This is how you correct somebody's behavior. What they don't understand is, number one, people are different. Okay, and some behavior doesn't need to be corrected. Maybe certain habits or whatever, but that's that person's choice ultimately. I've seen people who struggle with all kinds of addictions, right? And their family keeps saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. The person, whoever is addicted, is going to stop when it's ready for them, when they are ready. Not when they're being forced to, but when they make up their mind. Okay, you cannot force a person to make up their mind. And if you do force it, you're going to have a negative reaction. It's like some people expect me to be certain things that's not meant for me to be. It's not meant for me to be that way. Now, maybe in the beginning, I wasn't scapegoated, there was no bullying going on, things would have been completely different for me. I might have been what all these other people have, thought, like I'm supposed to marry into this family. Of course, I would have married into a better one. But I'm saying is, I would have had, the kids, the picket fence, whatever it is people strive for. Okay, maybe that would have been the case. But that's not the case. I was in a situation where I developed into my own individual person. That's just the way it is. And I can't change that. And to pretend to change it, it's like, well, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want to be like the rest of the world. I see how fucked up it is. They bully and they think it's normal. This is a fucked up culture we live in. I don't agree with everything Activism of Care says or does on his channel, but I will say that I do acknowledge the fact it is a very bullying culture. And it becomes normalized. I'm not just talking about my former siblings, or I'm just talking about people in general. The reason why so many people joined in on this little conspiracy bullshit is because of that. You know what I mean? I have developed certain forms of ethics that other people don't relate to. Why? Because they come from this majority bullying culture. Where they think sarcasm and, snide remarks and basically trying to deprive people of their human rights is the norm. You know what I mean? And at the same time, they'll sit there and talk about how great this country is because of all the freedoms that we have and blah, 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 blah. But anytime you exercise your freedom, look how hypocritical people become. We all have different realities. You know what I mean? Like we live in a world where everybody has every different reality or their own lifestyle in some way, shape, or form. Now, there are certain forms of people's lifestyles or certain lifestyles that I would say are dangerous to other people, dangerous to the population in general. You know what I mean? Like, some of it's quite destructive. I mean, society's words, their mouths, their actions, everything that they do out there in the majority of the mindset is destructive in one way or another. But I'm talking about some people are just like outright violent. You know what I mean? So, anyway, I'm getting a little off the subject, but it's just like everybody's different in some way. No one's completely the same. And so I also think that, because I'm the only black girl, like for example, my little what do you want to call it? My network, the network, my previous employers, my ex family, Joel's family, whatever. For some of these people, I'm the only black girl that they know or have been able to observe or be whatever. So it's like everything they know about black people is some bullshit that they either assumed, saw on television, or got some sort of idea of what somebody is supposed to be. And so when they see me, then they sit there, they like think of me or want me to put me under a fucking microscope. I can't tell you how fucking sick and tired of that shit I am. I get sick of it. It's like, it's annoying. It is. Okay. And I have every right to feel that way. It's like, to me, like I said, this is normal for me. And, but I know how to act in public, and unlike this one kid that I knew, when I think about it, his name was even one of those old names that most generations have forgotten about. But anyway, what was I going to say about that person? I'm losing my train of thought here. I guess I'm just saying is that, I was a kid when all of this stuff started and didn't quite put it all together that these people were like, this was like, they were a family. My siblings, my mother, and all them, they were like the family. What I mean by that is like they had their little group together, and most of their group meetings and stuff were probably about me, about this, and this, and this, and this. All originated because of the fact that, I was the last kid. I was the unwanted pregnancy. And when I really look at reality, there's so many unwanted pregnancies that people end up getting stuck with these kids that they really don't want. So then they mistreat them, and they think it's normal to treat their other kids. They don't even think about that. They just think of you as just one more fucking thing that's taking up their time. Okay? That's taking up their time. So, instead of coming out and hitting you with their fists, then they want to do other destructive things to you. So they'll set your own goddamn siblings against you. Yes, people are that sick. Okay? They are that sick. Or twisted. Or they don't even think of it as twisted. To them, it's just like, whatever. They'll be in denial of it for the rest of their lives. And it's normal to them. That's their normal behavior. But that's not my behavior. I will say, though, when you are somebody who is behind certain things, what I mean behind, or just individualistic or whatever, I'm not saying all, okay, because there are some individualistic people who are extremely morally corrupt, okay? There's a lot of those weirdos out there. There are weirdos like that, okay? But in my case, it's like, I see that I don't like the destructive behavior of most people. And, I'm not, and don't ever think that I'm somebody who's trying to act like I'm holier than thou. I'm not holier than thou. Okay? I'm not. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. And I'm not ever going to say that, I've never mistreated somebody. Because believe me, if somebody makes me feel like, uncomfortable or whatever, I'm only doling out hurtful shit if I feel like they deserve to hear it or they deserve to get it. You know what I mean? But most of the time I'm a peaceful person. But don't you ever fucking try to step in my way and try to create any sort of drama or bullshit, because then I'm going to let you have it. Okay? As much as I can based on the limits of the law. Okay? And goddamn those laws. Okay? Because really, people should be getting a whole lot more. But anyway, I try to keep my mood up. I do. There's days where I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then there's just days where I'm just like, most of the days I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I can't believe it. No, there's nothing wrong with me to the point of where, that I'm like a rebellious person against society or anything like that. I'm not. You know what I mean? I am something of a very picky person. I mean, I want to be able to have relationships, friendships with people who vibe with me. And there are people who are like that. There are people who are different. I can't trust people anymore, which I've already gone into that. Um, and obviously you can see why, but and this is not a blame video. I'm just basically saying that, I was thinking that we never really know people, you know. That was my initial thought this morning when I woke up. It's like, we don't really know people. Like, and see, the thing is that, I knew I had my ex-siblings. Like, I knew my oldest sister, Tanya. I knew my brother and my sister, Lisa. I knew these people on the surface. I knew that they did a lot of rude things, or I know there were times that they didn't just do covert bullying, using other people to do the bullying. Sometimes they would do things spontaneously, okay? But most of it was like, they must have been within their own little conversation group. But there were times, where like, um, my sister would just take her anger out of me unnecessarily, like the time that she chopped up my fucking paper dolls and left them in the whatever. Those little things, okay? But then I'd always brush that off as just, this is just whatever. I never realized the contempt these people had for me. Never. All my life, it's like I always wanted them to be happy. Like I did. I mean, I never like tried to get out of my way to try to make them happy or pull strings or anything. I never did that. But like if they wanted to do something, I never tried to obstruct them. I never tried to like prevent them from being happy. I would never do that. Like I knew my oldest ex-sister. I knew she was going to school and whatever. I never sat there and got in her business, or I don't even know exactly what she majored in or anything. I never obstructed that. I just figured this is what she was doing. She was doing this, this, and this to accomplish this. I hope she gets it and whatever. I don't think about, let me see what I can do to deter her plans, or let me do what I can do to throw in my 2 cents of what I think she should be doing. Or I never thought of doing that. And I never suspected my family, my siblings, from ever wanting to do that either. Because I always knew, like, in order to eat, have shelter, provide basic needs, you gotta have a job, okay? You gotta have a job. And I knew that there were certain things that were important in order to have jobs. And I remember, even when I was a teenager, I would always do research on, certain job ethics, how you should interview, stuff like that. So it's always been an interest to me how to obtain one. More importantly, to keep one. So I fully understand, what I'm doing. What I have these difference of opinions, and these bullying people come into my workplace and intertwine and throw out stuff that I think is completely irrelevant. Because I know how to act. Even though I know, like, for example, with my little cute things that I like to do, arts and crafts, my childhood stuff that people like to poo-poo on, but I have every right to do. I know this goes into the back burner, depending on what company you work for. And most of the time, like for all the last places that I've worked, I know this stuff is not going to be into the workplace. It just isn't. Now, when I was not younger, but when I was working at the farmer's place, there were times, before all this bullshit started happening, I wouldn't mind bringing my crafts in. And there were times I passed them around, let people see them. And most of the time I gave them away because I really didn't think they were Etsy worthy or whatever. So I gave a lot of my things away. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. But there was nothing prohibiting or what I would call it, stopping or preventing me from, there were no rules, okay, basically in place. I said you couldn't. You know what I mean? But like I know, like for example, when I worked over at the mobile homes place or whatever, I knew that I had to wear, decent clothes. I tried to be professional there, even though there wasn't any major dress code. I knew that you could wear jeans, you could wear, casual type dress. This is what I wore. You know what I mean? If I'm working in an office, I know what to wear. Okay, I know that there's certain things about my life at home that don't. But see, that's everybody. Just like there might be a dude who has all kinds of hobbies. There's fucking men in this town who have all kinds of weird hobbies, okay? That they certainly didn't bring at work. Okay, you leave certain things at home, whatever. But this is, but I feel as though, like, you get treated like you're a child, especially from coming from people that really don't have any right to tell me how I'm supposed to live my life. That's shocking to me. But I know that they were arranging my jobs, but then at the same time, it's like I never asked you to. And then, I don't want to work a job that's making me miserable. I just can't do it. You should have a job that meshes well with, your core values. And when I say core values, I'm not talking about religion. Okay, because the reason why religion doesn't belong in the workplace, I've already gone into that. Because here in the United States, people have to, or try, employers, most times, or should, based on the guidelines of the law, should not be using religion as a criteria. And I know there was a lot of this competition that went on about, and these debates, because they were trying to convert me to their religious view or whatever. This isn't, when you force other people to try to be a part of your religion, it's against the law because it's discrimination. Okay? Now, I understand there's a lot of people who are Christian, and I understand that covers a broad thing, okay, because there's several Christian denominations, sects, or whatever. But if a person, like, for example, even if I'm not Muslim, okay, I know people always accuse black people of being Muslim. I'm not Muslim. I swear to you, I'm not. But, and I have nothing against Muslims, okay? I'm not talking about that, but I'm not a Muslim. But this is an example. There are certain groups who have different religions in the United States, okay, and they have a right to practice their religion, no matter what that is, whether they're Muslim, whether they're Jewish people, whether they're Hindus, whether they or any other Eastern type religion or whatever religion, okay, they still have the right to be employed. Okay, they do. And, it's unfortunate that this whole thing got all tangled up, but I have my reasons for seeing things the way that I do. And I would never argue it. I shouldn't have to here in the United States, And of course, I do think that I've made my point quite clear in the past videos. But, I don't know, it's my right to be who I am. And I feel as though what took place was wrong, and I don't blame myself for any of it. I will take responsibility. Like I said, I shouldn't have married Joel, especially lying and saying that I was something else or whatever. I shouldn't have done that. But other than that, I mean, I can't. I just can't take any blame for this. But I do think that, when you're dealing with a lot of white people who don't understand black people, they tend to want to correct black people's behavior. This has a lot to do with I think Joel's family is highly racist, but I will also say that they are extremely prejudiced. They are not the same, but prejudiced, like they prejudge people. I don't want to take advice from white people. And it's not being racist. I'll tell you why. Because white people and black people are two different people. We're two different things, okay? Humans, or whatever you want to call it. We're two different, come from different experiences. We have different ideas. Some things, there's unified ideas and thoughts, but for the most part, it's not. It's just that your reality is different than mine. Completely different. And there's a lot of black people that my reality is different than them, but still, I'm still African American at the end of the day. And whether I'm an individual African American or whatever, I'm still a black person. But still, don't tell me how to wear my hair. Don't tell me how to wear my clothes. I will tell you that there's a lot of black people who say the same thing over and over again about how in the workplace, their white co-workers are always making comments about everything that they do, you know? And the thing is that they'll talk about, they'll get this. This is the same thing I've experienced, okay? If you wear jeans and you're played down that day, okay? Because there were times where I was pretty played down. What I mean by played down is like I'm not even really wearing anything nice. Then I remember hearing comments like, how come you're not dressed up? You know? Or there are some white people that you work with, and since this person's not really looking that stellar, they'll say things like, oh, she's just acting ghetto. She's ghetto. Even though their clothes aren't messy, they're not sloppy, they're just nothing spectacular, right? So then they'll talk shit about that. And then if they're not overdressed and like, where are you going to? Where are you off to? You dressing all fancy? And they're not even dressing fancy. They're just dressing like... It's something about how they view us that they can't stop picking it apart. They don't quite know what it is, but it's just we're different. So it doesn't matter whether you're dressed nice or you're played down or whatever. You're always going to be, because you're different to them. They constantly will look at you under the microscope like you're some fucking specimen. Guaranteed. Okay? But it can get to the point where it can become harassment. It can become harassment. We are a protected class because of that. It's like you're you're in an environment where somebody is different than you. Okay? There might be some people who were raised in this town who's never seen a black person other than being on TV. So when they're out in the same breathing space as another one of us, like we're, in the same space, there's curiosity and there's intrigue. And I understand that to a certain degree, okay? Sometimes it hasn't always been bad. Like there was this one girl and she was like fascinated with my skin. And there was this day when I first moved here, I would wear things like apron tops and stuff like that during the summertime. And she remembered her looking at my back and she's like, wow, you're so brown everywhere. I'm like, every fucking inch of me, okay? Every inch of me. She was amazed by that. And it wasn't. I think she was like, really like, wow. She liked my skin. She did. She liked it. She liked my skin. And I didn't trip too hard on that. But it's some of those stupid things where like, they think ridiculous things about you that aren't true. Just they assume that you speak a certain way. They assume that you whatever. Gets annoying, It does get annoying, but at the same time, I also understand that it's expected, I guess, for some people who aren't experienced with other people. You know what I mean? It is ignorant, but whatever. This whole thing, this whole getup, this whole so-called conspiracy, this whatever is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Every day I'm like, I cannot even believe how ridiculous this is. Whatever. But anyway. I am going to, hey, and you know what? Like I said, no offense to anyone. I'm not a racist person. But I do know that I don't, and it's not me being defiant or rebellious, because if you think I'm being rebellious, it's because you're white, and I'm not gonna like sit here and bend over backwards and like whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It's the fact that it's not about that I'm disrespecting. The issue is that your reality is different than mine for many reasons. So you're not in a position to tell me how to live my life, especially since I'm not related to you. Okay, I don't want anything from you. You know what I mean? I just don't. I don't want anything from you. It's like, it just, maybe, I would have a better life, economic life or whatever, better job if I could just like be more like you and like be stuck married to somebody I'm repulsed by. And maybe life would be like great. I'd be like walking on Wall Street and like whatever. Maybe that's the case, but no thank you. No, thank you. I don't know what I'll do, but I can't go that route. It's just not me. And I would have nothing but contempt for all of you. So that's just how it is, Nobody, I made a mistake in marrying Joel, but at the same time, I didn't ask to be put in some sort of program. Like I said, the solution to that would have been a divorce, which we already got divorced. It was really divorce for another reason. At least it was on my hand. I got divorced because it was like, you're abusive. It's abusive. And I also think, maybe if people thought that this whole setup, the reason why so many people participate in this setup is proof of that bully culture. Like, they think it's normal to deprive a person of their rights. They think it's normal to force someone to be married to somebody. They think it's normal, that you can just make somebody your religion. You can just do that, And the reason why is because they lack empathy, and they also lack the knowledge and understanding of the basic human needs. Or perhaps they don't think that they have basic human needs because I'm another color. That's a possibility, huh? But the fact of the matter is that people can cause a lot of damage. And I may be different, but I'm glad I'll never be one of those people that cause this kind of damage. So I'm going to wrap up this video. I think I said enough, and I will be back with another video some other day. Take care. Bye-bye.